If you run a company or manage a team, hiring qualified people quickly can make or break your business. Imagine a position of need going unfilled for weeks or even months because you just can't seem to find the right candidate. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. This makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results on your job post. Just in the last minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Now that is fast. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. Listeners will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Go to Indeed.com/BWN right now to support this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. We're coming to you on Tuesday night, just before 9 o'clock. Dallas Mavericks played the fourth game, fourth game in their 5-game road trip. They played the Philadelphia 76ers early this evening, 6 o'clock start time for those of us in the Central Time Zone. And the Dallas Mavericks managed to lose to the Philadelphia 76ers, the new defensive-minded Mavs. They gave up 118 points to the Philadelphia 76ers and lost 118-116. Josh, how you doing?
Surviving. That's the best way I can describe how I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Light is at the end of the tunnel for me, at least personally. So that's good, but we are still in it. The first day, and well, this is technically the second game in the post-Luka era because I keep forgetting that Cleveland Cavaliers game technically happened, but first one I watched because I didn't watch the Cleveland game. Sorry, fans. Sorry, listeners. But yeah, this was a bad loss. Bad loss.
All right, so I'm watching the first half, and I see the Mavericks basically go on a 15-0 run, or 15-something run before halftime.
15-2 run, yeah.
And so, you got to keep in mind, I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched this game with the closest of eyes because my kids are in the middle of dinner. I got it on my phone. I'm getting the baby ready for bed, and it's just there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, the 76ers, I laughed because I noticed Joel Embiid was questionable on the injury report, right? And I just didn't make anything of it because I've not really paid much attention to the Sixers, and I didn't know that he hadn't played since January 4th.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, neat. Of course he's coming back against the Mavericks. That makes sense. And so, and I'm looking at the box score now, having just come home from basketball practice, our man Joel had a triple-double with 29, 11, and 10, which, he's such a big person. And if the Mavericks are still only rolling out Gafford right now on the defensive side of things, along with Kelly Oregon, I don't know what the shit his name is. That's who knows if I'm going to have to learn it that much. Kyler Kelly, sure. That's just that's lunch for him. It's not Gafford's fault.
Well, and Gafford got hurt with 5 minutes left. Yeah, he got hurt with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
What kind of hurt are we talking about?
Shoulder. Looked didn't look bad on the replay, but it was like he was holding his left shoulder, and it was one of those. He went straight from the floor to the locker room, like didn't even go back to the bench. So I'm not a medical expert, but it did not look promising for him to be playing against Boston on Thursday. That didn't look good.
So what happened in that second half then? So walk me through it.
The Mavericks perimeter defense got completely compromised. They gave up uncontested drive after uncontested drive to the basket. The Sixers shot 25 of 35 in the restricted area. They had 64 points in the paint. And really, Embiid and Maxey, like two good paint scorers. So like, it's not like totally bad, but the problem was they just let everyone kind of get by them. Because after Tyrese and after Joel, this current iteration of the Sixers with Paul George hurt, they got nobody. Like, I'm sure Sixers, if a Sixers fan's listening to this, is probably going to want to clap back. But like, I mean, you look at what they have around those two guys right now with the current state of the roster. It's there's not a lot. Like they are struggling to fill those guys. I mean, and that's why the team's 20 and 29. So Yabusele, their starting forward, was really good because Mavericks had to double Joel a lot, and they did not cover the baseline, and he just got layup after layup after layup when the Mavericks would double Joel, and it was like one pass too, which is bad defense on a double when the team when the opposing team can score off of one pass. Like you can't even force more rotations. Like they couldn't even cover the weak side there. So he feasted on those. Maxey got into the paint at will. Kelly Oubre didn't really do much, but Ricky Council hit a couple threes. But yeah, it was mainly Embiid and Maxey and Yabusele. Some guy named Justin Edwards, who I just figured out who he was for the first time, hit some threes. This could have actually been a lot worse because the Sixers didn't actually shoot threes very well. And they were kicking the Mavericks to death because they were getting into the paint so easily. And they missed some open threes. So if they would have hit an average amount of threes, like 37% of their threes, they probably would have won this game by like 8 or 9 points. And the Mavericks wouldn't even have a chance to win it down the stretch. But yeah, it got so bad that they had to go to zone because they just couldn't keep Maxey out of the paint. It worked a little bit. And they kind of have to. They have to jump games up with the way that their lineup is right now.
Yeah, like
right?
Edwards is probably their best option, and I bet he wasn't able to do much. Maxey's unbelievable on the quickness
very good
level.
Player. Yeah, I don't know how hard we should hold it against the Mavericks that they couldn't guard Maxey and Embiid without Anthony Davis, who would have helped. Say what you will, he would have helped.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were shorthanded, but
PJ didn't play either, right?
No PJ, and he would have helped. Yeah, he would have helped too. But even then, obviously the Sixers probably had the two best players on the floor tonight. But players 3 through 10, the Maverick, I would say would be all Mavericks. So the fact that they were not able to win this game, I think is like, I get that people are going to want to go, well, they had beat Maxey. No PJ, no Anthony Davis. I don't know. I think they should have won this game. Because Embiid also, they had opportunities. They were up 7 at half. They had opportunities to create a bigger lead because Embiid looked like dog water in the first half because it's his first game back in a month. Right. And Joel Embiid, not a secret, it takes him a little bit to get going sometimes. I mean, he looked like he was wearing cement shoes on the defensive side of the floor in the first half.
He just can't move anymore, man.
Yeah, I know. Not even necessarily his fault, but like the Mavericks could have taken advantage of that more. Like they missed some opportunities. Daniel Gafford was 5 of 10 from the floor, and 50% shooting for him is like really bad. The Mavericks had 15 offensive rebounds, and our man Matt G on the recap. On those offensive rebounds, the Mavericks shot 5 of 13 on those possessions. They missed a lot of putbacks, a lot of good opportunities, like 15 offensive rebounds. You probably should have taken advantage of that a little bit more. And yeah, that was the game. They couldn't keep the Sixers out of the paint. And then on the other end, they didn't really get into the paint as well, but also that's the new Mavericks. Like without Luka, I mean, Kyrie is the only guy that's probably going to be able to consistently touch the paint on this team besides Anthony Davis. So they're going to have to figure out ways to score.
Yeah.
And they kind of did. They scored okay. They couldn't get stops.
Yeah, it's kind of bleak, man.
Yeah, not because they're going to lose to Boston.
They'll be firmly at 500 when they play Boston,
and then they play Houston.
Playing 500.
First home game after the Luka trade. So we have no idea what that environment's going to look like. I mean, they could very much be under 500 by next week. So
Yep. Which is just
yeah.
Yeah. So Boston, Houston, Sacramento, Golden State, Miami. That's an interesting.
I know.
Interesting group. Group, man.
Yeah.
Robbie Lewis asks if we can talk about Caleb Martin. I have zero opinions on Martin twins. I have zero.
I thought it was a. Go ahead.
No, so let's just So we're gonna pivot away. We're gonna pivot away from the game.
Yeah, there's too much to talk about. That's not.
Well, there is, and like also, I didn't really watch the game, and this game they lost, and it's kind of is what it is. So there's a fair amount of news. I'm just gonna do the ad break right now, if you don't mind, guys, just to get through it and get on with it. For those of you who know, our podcast sponsor is a company called Body Spec. They provide DEXA scans. It's a full body composition scan. It would help you know what's going on with your body. Unfortunately, if you have like Luka-induced depression, it cannot tell you that, but it can tell you an awful lot. Whether if you're figuring out, if you want to get back in shape, if you just really need a good starting point, a DEXA scan is a really affordable way to learn a lot about where you are. And if you want to support our show directly, it's a great way to do that while also helping yourself. If you'll head to the show notes, there's a Body Spec link. And right now we're still offering our promo code. It's all caps, PODMAVS45 at checkout to get $15 off a single scan. Guys, this is a really affordable thing. It is extraordinarily affordable to where I will say competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this. You'll be getting real usable information, which can help you with kind of figuring out what things you need to focus on. I use myself as an example a lot. I thought I was in great shape until I got this thing done. Just because I work out a lot and I push myself, but I learned that I have a lot of what's called visceral fat, and that's really kind of the dangerous fat that can be around your organs. And so, over the last 3 weeks, I've completely cut alcohol. I have changed a lot of like the caloric intake to go along with the working out. I've lost like 9 pounds. It's not, a significant amount, but it's the kind of thing where you can see changes or feel changes, which is interesting. The first 2 weeks I bitched that I never felt. I was like, I don't feel anything. Give me vodka. But now I actually feel a little better. And honestly, the body scan from or the DEXA scan from Body Spec really helped. So I just want to recommend that to you guys. We're going to insert some ads, then we'll be right back, and we will talk in the second half of the show about the notes or about the various news. So we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or you're managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place and all on your terms. Introducing Design Intelligence from Squarespace, combining 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology to unlock your strongest creative potential. They've also got Squarespace Payments. That's the easiest way to manage your payments all in one place with Squarespace. Onboarding is fast and simple, and you can get started with just a few clicks and start receiving payments right away. You can also connect major social and multimedia accounts to your website with just a few clicks as icons, direct links, or embedded feeds, so you can build that visitor trust while updating content only where you need it. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, squarespace.com/bluewire to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
Next on Metro's Nada Yada Island podcast.
I almost fainted when the 4 new bombshells arrived. 4 free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G phones at Metro.
No way.
And finding out the 4th line is free. Oh, things got heated.
That's wild. Join Metro and get 4 free Samsung 5G phones. Only at Metro.
Plus tax. Bring 4 numbers and an ID and sign up for any Metro Flex plan. Not available currently at T-Mobile or been with Metro in the past 180 days.
Okay. I think we start with the transactional news because I mean it's right. That is a little more interesting. I mean it's like less depressing and like some semblance of weird. So we want to note that by the time you're hearing this, there isn't a possibility that like there could be even more trades that have happened. It depends on when you're listening to this. Like when is the trade deadline? Thursday. So we got, roughly 48 hours. It feels like Nico Harrison is still trying to wheel and deal and do something. And that's just sort of the gist of it. But today they traded Quentin Grimes and they sent Philadelphia's so Quentin Grimes is on an expiring deal. Restricted free agent deal. Young guy, pretty good statistics, up and down season. If you watch some games, he's amazing. Other games, he's just nowhere to be found. Really like his rebounding, really like his attitude, loved his mustache. I kind of enjoyed the Quentin Grimes experience. It felt like a less stressful version of what I loved most about Tim Hardaway. Only he actually played some defense, a lot of defense at times too. They traded him for Caleb Martin, but they also sent, and this is probably the real thing that I'm very confused about, and we're going to need to suss out, Philadelphia's second round pick, which the Mavericks owned, back to Philadelphia. Caleb Martin is, how old is he? 25, 26?
29.
And he's on the
3
first
more
year,
years left on his deal. Yeah.
and it's a good deal. Like price range wise, it's a good deal. I don't really have strong Caleb Martin opinions. He's 6'5". He's a kind of he's a rough and tumble player. He's only played 31 games this year, and I didn't really look into why.
Currently hurt,
but he's currently hurt, and a player for player thing. Okay, the Mavericks don't want it to get to restricted free agency. They don't want to have to pay him. Like that's something we have batted around the whole year. Like that's just sort of lingered in the back of everybody's head, right? Or am I misstating that?
No, yeah. When you don't get an extension done, that's pretty logical.
Yeah, and so there's that, and then what we're confused about, what I'm confused about, and this will get us back into the Nico Harrison of it all, is the second round pick. Why? What? As somebody noted, there's a good chance it's a top 37 pick. Like the Sixers are toast, I mean, I don't know. They just beat us. The East is a mess. So I suppose there's something possible for them, but it's just like, that seemed like an okay asset. And I guess, after hearing Nico's continued hogwash explanation for why he traded Luka-Doncic for Anthony Davis, we're in win now mode. The argument could be made that he does not care about draft picks whatsoever. But the team did not get tangibly better with Caleb Martin, and they sent off an additional asset. So what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, the motivation of this deal is obviously they would rather have 3 years of cost control Martin than whatever Grimes was going to get on the free agency market, which makes sense because they're similarly tiered players. Like, I really like Grimes, and if you would ask me, I would. He's younger, and I think he's better. But I don't think he's overwhelmingly better that it looks like a farcical trade. Like Martin will be able to do some of the things that he can do. Not all of them. He can. They're just a little different. He's a little bit bigger. Height-wise, they're similar, but Martin's a little bit stockier. He can guard up a little bit better than Grimes, but Grimes can guard down much better. And
which was an example today was a really good example of like where that.
Yeah, they could have used Quentin Grimes tonight. I'll tell you that much. But they could both hit threes. Martin, if you want to give Martin something over Grimes, is he's got more playoff bona fides. If you remember that Heat run to the finals, I believe in 2023, where he like turned into like a 20-point per game scorer for that playoff run. So he's got that. So it's not like if it was just Grimes for Martin, like just straight up, it would make sense to me. Like, yeah, get out ahead. You don't know what Grimes is going to get in restricted free agency. You don't want to be like forced feel like to overpay him, even though I don't know how much he was going to really get, because I don't think this was going to be a very good market for restricted free agency this year.
No,
I mean, because you made the benches. There's just not a lot of cap space for guys in his tier.
Yep.
From other, not a lot of cap space from teams that are looking to blow the bank on a bench role player or fringe starter, which is what Grimes is. So, maybe they, that part's weird, but yeah, send out. I had some people tell me that are like, they had to send the second rounder out because, Grimes could walk in free agency and Martin is cost controlled, and that makes Martin more valuable. But
the pick
I don't know
where this gets silly.
Yeah, but I get that a little bit, but also the Mavericks really like trading the younger, better player and also a pick. Because remember, they gave up a second rounder when they traded Kristaps Porzingis to Washington, even though Kristaps was the best player in that trade. They traded
that was a Nico deal, yes.
Yeah, that was a Nico deal. Yeah. They traded, when they traded Luka, they gave up a sec. Like, why are they trading a second round pick when you're trading Luka? Mm-hmm. And now they're trading another second round pick.
So you're actually you're getting to something that I think we sort of have to talk about in the aggregate. So when you I'm tabling my considerable fury at that fucking dork Nico Harrison, and we're going to talk about this for transactional purposes only. When Luka Doncic is on your team and you are attempting to win a title, overpays are because you're trying to really move your timeline up, I think sort of come with the territory. And when I say overpays or sort of like maybe you value certain thing in a trade more because you're trying to make that push. Now, the argument can be made right this second that Nico Harrison still thinks the Mavericks are title contenders. I'm not sure what it's going to take for them to understand that, with the roster that they have right now, they are not title contenders. Okay. We just have to, but understand that he thinks they're title contenders. He also thinks Anthony Davis is better than Luka Doncic. So it's very important to understand that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So we go look at all the moves they've made, and so he really they wanted Kyle Kuzma. They were willing to give up 2 first-round picks for Kyle Kuzma. This is reported. This is known. Kuzma said no.
Not even report. Kuzma said it. He's like, this isn't even like a sources thing. Kuzma literally told them.
So we understand there that he was and so he was saved. And this has happened. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. He was saved by the PJ deal and by the Gafford deal. But the Gafford deal required them to go get an extra first, which they then moved immediately, which is concerning. And then they moved. Then they needed a. They moved PJ, or they got PJ as a result too. Did they? They traded
another first for PJ. Yeah.
And this comes with the fact that you also have to remember that when they signed Grant Williams,
they gave up a pick swap.
They gave up a pick swap in 2030 to the Bulls.
To the Spurs.
Sorry. And so there's a fair amount. There's a fair amount going on where, and again, I mean this, as much as I'm really furious with Nico, I think that if Luka and he's your title boost there, this actually makes a whole lot of sense where it's okay, these players work. And clearly they got to the finals. There's some there. Unfortunately, the trade that he made for Anthony Davis, we're giving up Luka, and the trade that he's made for Caleb Martin speaks to a team that the Mavericks don't have. They're making trades and granted, I guess we could talk about the Kevin Durant rumor, whatever that is. I don't even know how to discuss that in a real tangible way. I'm gonna go look it up because
The Athletic with I think it was Sam Amick, David Aldridge, someone else, all combining to report that that Nico is looking. He's basically the 2 next moves on his list are either trading for Kevin Durant, and if that doesn't work, if LeBron James opts out of his contract this summer, signing LeBron James. That's the wish list for Nico right now.
And so is there
and there's a lot. Zach Lowe tweeted 20-30 minutes ago that there's a lot of eyes and ears around the league are looking at the Kevin Durant situation. So there is some smoke.
So I'm trying to
it's not necessarily for the Mavs,
because I don't feel like getting clipped and everybody yelling at me if the Mavericks somehow ended up with Kevin Durant. But I don't see how that would be possible.
It's possible, but financially, they would have to trade a lot.
Okay, Destin really sums it up here. He says that's not going to happen without every bit of our assets, 3 picks, Lively, plus the other salary to make the salary.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking
Kevin Durant makes a ton of money.
Yeah, he makes $51 million this year. So you're talking
you got to get
lively. So they got, I think, because the Suns, the apron rules don't they have to get really close because of the second apron rules for Phoenix?
Yeah.
They can't take in more than they give.
It would have to be like, but even the trade to go regardless, I think you have to get within like 5% of the salary. So it's like they'd have to get to 47 million in salary.
Yeah, they'd have to do PJ's gone, Clay's
There's
gone.
a lot of different options. There's some good stuff in the chat where it's just and let's just go ahead and say for the sake of argument that that's really what they're trying to do. Because
I see some people in the chat being like, no, they're going to trade Gafford, not Lively. The Suns are trading Kevin Durant. They're going to ask for Derek Lively to be in the trade, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I could be wrong, but
and granted, so I don't want to have egg on my face. I don't want to act like
I know.
I'm saying
who knows.
I see this as being a bit of a stretch. I saw some things that were like unsourced around the internet today, where it's like other team officials are wondering if they should work with the Mavericks given this Luka trade and how secretive Nico Harrison was about the agent stuff. And I'm like, that, like at this point, everyone is probably wanting to trade with the Mavericks because they think they can fleece him.
But that matters more for free agency because agents don't really matter in trades. The GMs make the trades, not the agents. Mm-hmm. But free agency, that could be a problem for sure. But I wonder if the Mavericks are going to be in all these rumors now because now that there's teams can use them as the boogeyman when they're in trade. Like Phoenix is trying to trade with Miami for Jimmy Butler. Or, there's rumors about the Warriors trying to trade for Durant as well, by the way. I wonder if they can use the Mavs as a boogeyman because it's like, fuck, the Mavs will do anything. Like, hey, listen, you better up your offer because I've got Nico on the phone and he's willing to trade every fucking thing on his roster for Kevin Durant. So I need that extra pick swap. I wonder if the Mavericks are going to start getting used as leverage in these trade conversations because
sort of with regards
Jesus,
to,
I mean, what wouldn't if you trade Luka, there's nothing's off the table.
There's nothing off the table. And like, this is where we get to like another element of what was reported today. Tim Cato of DLLS wrote a paywalled piece that no one read because it's paywalled. And I don't know anyone that actually subs to DLLS. I hope you guys do. I haven't had the opportunity to yet. But Tim wrote a piece, and look, I really like when Tim writes pieces. Tim is he is our friend, and I'm just going to sit here and say that I'm glad I am not a reporter because being a reporter really means you have to pick and choose when you know stuff, which is why his like piece that sort of led to like that pushed forward the timetable way back when of Donnie Nelson getting fired. I was like, dude, you were sitting on this stuff forever. But apparently all the Mavs media people were sitting on stuff like that forever, and they just don't report it because I don't understand how some of this stuff works, whatever. But as part of the piece, Cato said there has been belief, and this is a quote, guys, there has been belief which multiple team and league sources expressed to me over the past months, long before this trade, that Harrison does not have a long-term desire to remain in his current role as general manager.
Is there a follow-up on what he wants to do then?
I've heard that he wanted the CEO job.
The Mavs CEO job?
Yeah, the position that they brought that one guy in from.
So he doesn't want to make basketball moves. He just wants to be a businessman.
I don't know because there's like this feel like I don't want to say like I don't know because this feels like very nebulous because
the Mavs CEO job is not a basketball job. Yeah.
But before this, he did shoe stuff. Like he was a big
he was
Nike shoe pitch guy. So, and Ethan Sherwood-Strauss today wrote a piece for his Substack House of Strauss. He's written two pieces where he absolutely kind of sideswiped Nico repeatedly, saying that he's like the ultimate example of a Peter principle, which is basically you rise to the level of incompetence. And he wrote that if when Cuban hired him, his job was essentially to be the front man for a lot of what Cuban wanted, which I think is something we forget because Cuban did sort of take more of a back seat. But as we well know, Cuban actually was the final decider for a lot of stuff. And then he sold the team. And so the argument can be made that Nico Harrison took a job where he was more of a front man, only he was left with like Palpatine power because he's just sitting there, crackling with his fingers, explaining to you if you've ever heard the tale of Darth Sidious. And this is how a guy who doesn't want to make, maybe might not want to be making basketball moves or being in a GM position anymore, was in a position to make the most lopsided sports trade in modern history. That's my working theory. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that was a concern when they hired him, right? Was
so and bringing that all around to the Kevin Durant element of this all is what if he's trying to, it's like the guy wants to fail in his job. Like that's like the thing that I think needs to be clear. He thinks
he's doing the right thing.
He absolutely thinks he's doing the right thing. Now, and what's been very clear is that he had no idea that it would be received this way. We talked about this last show.
Are you sure? Because why do it in secret then? Like he had to have known a little bit.
Rob Pelinka made them do it in secret. Did you read the ESPN story?
Yeah, I did. That's true, because Rob didn't want anyone else to know, because that would ruin his trade offer.
Oh my God.
Because another team would come in and swoop.
He manipulated his friend and basically got him, and then there was that like amazing, there was an amazing bit on Twitter today from a Lakers blogger who essentially said, he's like, just, it's like Pelinka manipulated Nico into taking much less. It's pretty amazing when you look at that. Like Rob Pelinka should be executive of the year for tricking his friend. Now, whether his friend really seems to care, I don't know, because again, this comes back to
dude, Nico called him.
Nico called him. Right. So it's like, that's where we are with that. So it's like, you're looking at this and I'm trying to bring this all into one. I'm not explaining this very well, but if he doesn't want to have the job for very long, he probably still wants to do the job to the best of his abilities, because he is a competitive person. It's not like I'm sort of wheeling away from him like wanting to tank the Mavs. He obviously wants to build a championship contender. He might not know ball, but he does want to build a championship team, which is why he traded for a guy like Davis. And I wonder if he's like maybe really trying to make a push for Kevin Durant, because this is his last hurrah before he flames out.
Yeah, I don't know. If you trade Luka, that doesn't work. I don't know if you get another job in basketball.
Right. No, he doesn't. Like you become known as the guy who traded Luka. Like somebody is like, oh, he's going to be like Steve Bartman. Like he's going to be synonymous with like these names of people who made massive mistakes.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's also pretty clear what he's trying to do. Like Durant, interesting. Like he's collecting his Nike clients, like Thanos collecting Infinity Stones. Like he has a vision of what he wants the team to be, and he wants the team to be all of his Nike guys that he knows. He wants Kobe disciple true hoopers. He wants that's what he wants. That's what he thinks is what it's going to take to win a championship. He wanted Kyrie. He wants Anthony Davis. Now he wants Kevin Durant. These are all Nike guys. He wants LeBron. All guys he's worked with when he was at Nike. And that's even PJ, I think I heard I don't know if he was a Nike guy explicitly, but apparently he knew PJ back in the day as well. He wants guys that he worked with, maybe even not Nike guys, but being part of Nike, he part of the American basketball scene, AAU, he's college.
Yep.
He's been around those guys for a long time. So he wants guys that he knows. And it's funny because we actually talked about this in a positive way last year, because we felt like the front office that the Cuban had assembled, it had gotten rotten. I mean, for a variety of ways. I mean, there was the damn sexual harassment scandal. I mean, that's rotten in one way, but also just from a basketball decision-making sense, it was totally archaic. And he had buddies in his front office doing jobs that they were not equipped to do, or people that were in roles for a long time that were just there because he didn't want to fire them, which is commendable. I don't, not trying to say he should have necessarily just fired everyone, but like that was kind of the deal. And remember, we were like, I wrote a column after, I think the Grant, either the Grant acquisition or the PJ and Gafford trades, like praising him for clearing out that front office and replacing it with supposedly a lot of smart, forward-thinking basketball minds. He got the cap guy from Brooklyn. He got like the assistant GM from the Nets that helped draft a lot of the players that eventually led to some of the big moves that they made. And we were like, oh wow, that's forward thinking. Like they're adding pieces to their front office. But now it's like, little did we know that he wanted to he wanted to rip the whole thing down and build it up in his vision, not just the front office, but the roster as well. And I don't think we understood that was going to lead to Luka. But now that you think about the previous stuff that he did, it makes sense now, right? Like it all was kind of leading to this, and we just didn't know it because you just can't fathom that he would actually trade, 25-year-old foundation of the franchise for less than he's worth, kind of. And also now it's funny, like they're interested in Kevin Durant. Like it seems like he's trying to rebuild the Durant Kyrie Nets, and he's got two former people that worked on that front office when they built that team in his organization now. Can't remember their names off the top of my head, but the cap guy they got was from Brooklyn when they got Durant and Kyrie, and one of their assistant GMs was a front office guy when they got Durant and Kyrie. So they're trying to do the Nets super team again, but this time in Dallas. So that's kind of funny too that I'm noticing, but we'll see if it works.
Yeah, and I'm really trying not to I'm trying in an audio form. Like my tweets are just unhinged right now because I feel unhinged as
no, it keeps getting worse. Every drop of new information, it just makes it worse for Mavs.
Yeah, it's not getting better. Worse, and it's getting sadder.
The Luka press conference, these trades, the stories that are coming out. It's almost worse that
I mean, look, I'm just going to say it. There's some the people who, I don't know if you're going to agree with this. You're probably going to be annoyed with me for even bringing this up. But the people, I listened to Rajah Bell, go through some really awkward and frankly uncomfortable potential hypotheticals as to why Luka would get traded. I listened to Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley. I listened to Kendrick Perkins. And I listened to the people who seem to have a real fucking problem with non-American basketball players. It's kind of what it comes down to. And I can't, that's not the reason, but it's there. And it gets more annoying the future we get away from it. Jake Kemp had a really hilarious tweet at 5:30 this morning about how it was a great conspiracy theory tweet about how it's maybe Nico is really looking to excise, prove that AAU basketball culture is fine. American basketball cultures, is what we're pushing, because he kept using Nico during the introductory, the explanatory press conference in Cleveland, used the word culture a couple of times. And it was he's well, I don't want to bag on former players, but we need players that fit the culture. And it's so you're saying
add to the culture, not just fit the culture,
right? Add to the culture. So you're saying Luka Doncic took away from the culture is the implication there. And so the further we get away from this stuff, I just find myself very annoyed as to how it's discussed, because just say it with your chest, guys. You don't think the Balkans basketball players are good enough, despite, I don't know, the current one of the one being the 3-time and possible 4-time MVP, hearing Luka talk about loyalty broke me. Okay. Hearing Luka talk about loyalty just absolutely busted me.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. You're on.
I'm frustrated, man. I'm frustrated.
Yeah. It's become more clear. Since it's happened, me and you, and I'm sure a lot of other people, NBA reporter, everyone has been trying to find the silver bullet for why did this happen? And every story, I keep waiting to read something where it's like Luka was chronically late to practice. He had friction with his teammates. He was a distraction in the locker room. He no showed a charity event, something bad. He did something bad or something that that was harmful to the team in a way that didn't sit right with his teammates. And it really just came down to they didn't like his conditioning and they didn't like his in-game temperament.
And therefore they looked for a reason to trade him beyond that. That is what all is coming to. And it's terrible, man.
Yeah. It came down to we all thought it was because they were going to be scared that they couldn't get him to sign the Supermax. They were scared he was going to sign the Supermax. They didn't want him to.
He was ready. He was getting ready to buy a house.
Yeah.
We know all this stuff that's been reported now. And I wrote an open letter to Nico Harrison, which we know the Mavs read our shit. We know they do. And I was not unprofessional. I hope not, at least. I was this is really bad. Like, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic here, but like the further I get away from it, the sadder I get, the angrier I get. And I don't know, we've known, our friends, my friends, 21 going on 77 podcast, wrap up shop. They're quitting. The Garcia kid told me today he's thinking about quitting. The Mavs stuff. Who else? The Mavs Outsiders podcast, Bibbs.
They're just going to do more NBA.
Yeah, they're going to kind of pivot away from the Mavs stuff, and it's like this could kill basketball around here for a generation. Yeah. And I've come across, and granted, on the internet, you come across all kinds of people. I've come across the fans that are like, well, I really want the Mavericks to win a championship. And if that's how you watch sports, I'm not going to judge you there. But I think like Nico, and it's not just Nico, a lot of current NBA people don't understand what draws people to sports. And it is not the transactional fantasy basketball bullshit. That might be a quick dopamine hit, but what draws and keeps people to sport is the story, the connection, the highs, the community. Look at what we have here, the highs and the lows. I mean, we'll be candid with you guys. Josh and I have had discussions about whether we should continue to do this. I think we're gonna, but it just sort of, the call, I could never have imagined the call coming from inside the house like this.
I know. It's never happened. It's never happened before. You can't, how can you predict something that's never happened before?
And when I eviscerated Cuban several years ago about his over-involvement in the league, the one thing I did not do was insult how much he cared, because he did care.
That was part of his downfall.
Caring was his downfall. What we have here is people that have come in and there's a lot of ownership talk. Guys, I'm going to keep reiterating this. The Mavericks are a means to an end. It's not that they dislike the Mavs. They're not moving the Mavs. I don't know if anybody knows this. I learned this today. The Adelsons are actually divesting out of Vegas. Like their headquarters will not be in Vegas within a couple of years.
Yeah, so all their big money casinos are
overseas. And so I want that sort of out there. The Mavericks are a means to an end to get gambling here in Texas, and gambling will come to Texas. This is not a matter of when it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Once Dan Patrick is no longer in office, it will probably happen. He is like one of the many people holding the dam. I don't know how I feel about sports gambling. I don't really have a strong opinion at the moment. And so there's just a lot right now to where if you feel bleak, you are allowed to feel that way. I think Josh and I are going to continue to podcast and cover this team. And I sort of approach things to where it's like when I stop, and you guys know this, like when I stop, I really stop. But whenever I push, I keep going. And to where I will likely have more podcasts than makes sense, like to where my wife will be annoyed with me. But we're just sort of at this place right now where it feels like a little bit of a crossroads. If this doesn't come through with this Mavs team in the next couple of weeks, like if they really start to fall, we might do less content. I mean, we've put up at Mavs Moneyball something like 35 pieces in 4 days. Like, if you guys have missed the writing at Mavs Moneyball, you have to go. You have to go.
Every single person on our staff pretty much wrote a very passionate, personal story about how this trade has affected them in some way. So it's a lot of good stuff for sure.
So there's just a lot going on. And I'm sort of rambling at this point. Maybe something will happen to pull it together. But if this has gutted you, I want you to understand you are perfectly like that is fine. I understand this. Apparently Kyrie gave a quote. Thank you to Andreas Flores. He says here, Kyrie said after the game, just really shocked. And you just don't imagine you're going to get ready to go to sleep. And then you find out news like that. It's still a grieving process right now. I miss my hermano.
He was not available to talk during the Cleveland game before or after. He didn't play. He wasn't around. And so people, this was the first time he got to talk about it, so everyone was kind of wondering what's going on. So it's pretty obvious that he's taking it on the chin a little bit here. Didn't affect his game though. I know that's one thing a lot of people were wondering, like, is this team just going to pack up? Because good Lord, that Cleveland game, I know that they didn't play anyone, but that team looked like they just got off the last helicopter out of Vietnam during that Cleveland game. And people were wondering, like, are they just going to give up? And like they lost this game and it was a crappy loss, but they played hard and Kyrie had an awesome game and looked engaged. Like they didn't look disengaged. So, let's see if they lose, 4 out of 5 games, what happens. But for right now, they're going to soldier through it. And I know you're like, how can they do it? Well, they get paid. They live lives better than, 90% of people in the world to play a game. So they're gonna do it. This isn't like they're not war veterans here. Like they're basketball players. They're gonna figure it out. Yep. But obviously they're it's gonna be emotional. And then
I mean, I think
I don't know.
I think my challenge is going to be finding a way to not to fucking sound like Peter Parker at the Spider-Man movie after Endgame, but like Luka Doncic is all around
everywhere.
Me.
I see.
Everywhere I look, there's Luka. Everywhere I'm questioning, like there's Luka, and I don't have a good answer. Like we told our Slack, like our Mavs Moneyball Slack, where it's like a couple of people are like, and I just feel so emotional over this, and it's just so ridiculous that it's affecting me like this, and it's not. Somebody on the internet had lots of people have just people say the wildest shit to other human beings on the internet. But somebody was essentially like, I can't believe you're spending all your energy like this. Why can't you do something that like really matters? And not to be like nihilistic, but who the fuck determines value? Like we all place what value is. It's up to each of us. And like, I've decided that the Mavericks matter to me. I've decided that this community and this team in the stupid uniform matters to me. Is it potentially very stupid? Absolutely. Feel pretty worthless after some of this stuff. But I've made this choice. It matters to me. And I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to keep caring. But at the same time, I don't know how to I want to be able to do games where we talk for more than 5 minutes about the game before bitching about Luka and Nico. And it's going to be hard.
It's going to be a while.
It's going to be hard.
I mean, that first home game, I'm just very curious to see what the energy is like in that building. Yeah. But yeah, I don't blame anyone for feeling down. I mean, obviously it's easier for me because I've become more detached from the emotional part of it, the fan part of it to say. I mean, I still get emotional watching games because like sports is fun. If this, like I said, what was the analogy I used? Like this was like if the Mavericks traded Dirk in 2009 for like Amari Stoudemire and like a first round pick. Like if that happened 2009, I was 20 years old. I would not be here talking to you right now. I would be done. I would not be a Mavs fan. I would have probably slowly drifted away from watching the NBA. Like absolutely. I would be pitchforks at the AAC. Like a lot of people are going to be, like all of that. So who am I to say from my position now, like, oh, you guys are being silly? Like, absolutely not. If this happened when I was 20 years old with Dirk, I would have lost my goddamn mind. Mm-hmm. Not even close. I know I would have. So I get it. And it's going to take a while.
Well, we should probably wrap up there. I told my friend Karam, one of our followers who comes through with every live show, asked if we were going to do a live show tonight, and I said I was, but guys, like I'm just emotionally sapped. I don't know. I always overshare. I had to kick my 8-year-old out of our basketball practice tonight because he was having behavioral problems, and that. Like that on top of this, I don't have any emotion left. I don't have it. And I love being a conduit and being able to help you guys process stuff and bring people together. I got to tell you, as sad as the Luka trade was, like talking to people all over the planet for 4 hours that night was actually really cool.
Yeah.
And
we'll have more opportunity. You'll have more chances too. Like I'm sure you're going to want to do it after the home game, the first home
today,
game.
today's only like I might feel better Thursday because there's a Thursday night game. We'll see. Even if it's just the
AD
Boston
game,
one, we can talk about it. So we'll see. I understand. I'm just going to say this at the end. Like I understand there's a potential protest going down, like a protest of Nico Harrison, just sort of like a statement of fans going. That's probably going to go on. Like I think it's like Victory Plaza on Saturday. I got made a lot of fun of for saying I might go to this from different people, but I also think a lot of people just want to get together and be mad. Like it's not going to do anything. Like the only thing that's going to get Nico Harrison fired is results. Like nobody gives a shit about the fans. Yeah. So if you can seek that out, I might go. My wife was like, "You and Parker should go," which I was surprised by.
Even if it's not about that, just to see people and talk.
Yeah, like community and grieving. Like it's I was my friend Mike, who is a Lakers fan. He is like he was a kind of a Lakers fan who hasn't really paid attention for several years because he doesn't like LeBron, and he's consuming all this, and he's just like, this is like when Kobe passed away, like looking at what's going on outside of AAC. Like people, it's crazy.
It looked like a memorial on the Dirk statue, like leaving all the memorabilia.
I think there's somebody who's bought like one of those billboards on, is that what Dallas? I can't remember which road it is. Like the closest major highway right there.
35.
It's like 35, and it's maybe it's 35. I don't remember. But somebody's
either 35 or 75.
Put up a message to Nico on a billboard. Like this is real. I don't know if it's up, but I was told that it was like folks were looking into it. Like there was the casket that came through. Like there's all sorts of. This is a real thing that's not going to like. I think as it gets like. If there was a road game immediately, a home game immediately, I sort of think some of this stuff might have petered out. But because the Mavericks aren't here and the details keep getting stupider,
it's just kind of revving up.
It's just kind of revving up, and it's like, oh man. And I will say, guys, stop fucking sharing Nico Harrison's address. Stop doing that. Stop it. Like I sports hate this man. I need everybody to be human beings, please.
Yes. Yes, very much so. Shit, I was going to say something to kind of wrap it up.
Too much.
No. It's just, I was going to say, like, even if they win, and I think we kind of talked about this last two podcasts, like, that's the thing we were talking about, like, when is this going to go away? And it's like, they could win, and I don't think it's going to, like, they could win a title, and I don't think it's going away that quickly. So it's like, what's it going to be like if they don't, like if Anthony Davis comes back Thursday and they lose like 3 out of their next 4 games, like I'm a little scared to know, like, I think I saw somewhere someone called in a bomb threat to the Mavericks practice facility today. I mean, that might be fake news. I didn't really check into it. It's Twitter, who knows? But like, I'm legitimately kind of scared what'll happen. Like, cause I'm scared what'll happen even if they win, rip off like a 10-game winning streak. Like what's going to happen if this team is like 5 games under 500 in 3 weeks? Like it could get, like, we're not even at the bottom. Like we haven't reached the low point yet. And I just hope everyone can grieve in a responsible manner. Because there's potential for it to get really dark.
Yeah, it certainly is, man. Okay, we'll let everybody get on with the rest of their Tuesday. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate everyone so much. Everyone be good. And insofar as they can, go Mavs. Oh, shoot.